Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this season's podcast for me, just starting the new season with a focus on men's health. So today I'm very fortunate to have on our podcast a guest, a local as well, Mr. Paul Baird. So welcome, Paul. Thank you so much for coming along. And I wonder if you can tell our viewers or our listeners about who you are and what you do.
Hi, thanks for the invite. Let's start straight away. This is the first, I have to say.
Right.
Who am I? I'm just an old guy who's trying to be well and trying to help other people to be well, especially men. I think men from the mental health perspective need a bit of a leg up because they're a bit standoffish about their mental health, but generally general health. I just started a new journey a couple of years ago and it's worked magic, and I just try and share that journey with other people, really.
And what brought you to start the journey in the first place? Where was the beginning point?
I think it started when I was actually on tour around Australia, and I noticed whenever there was like a social gathering of our age or my age group, the conversation was just always about what pills people were on and all their ailments. And it suddenly hit me that I was 68 years of age, and it was the first time that I actually considered I was old.
Right.
It was quite weird, really. And I looked at the state of my own health. Mental health was great, but my physical health was shocking. So I was, obese, and that had a lot of serious wellness effects, etc., etc. So I decided to do something about that as a starting point, and I did a lot of research. I bought a few interesting books and tried to gather as much information as I can or I could, and then I just started putting things into practice, and the weight literally fell off. I lost 32 kilograms in 8 months.
Oh gosh, that's lovely.
Yeah, and I've maintained it for almost a year and a half now. And now my focus is on health and fitness. So I've kind of upped the yoga and cycling, walking, weightlifting to tone the body. Because when you lose a lot of weight, there's a lot of excess skin and goodness knows what. So now I'm in the process of toning all that up. And I feel like $1 million. I'm back to being 35.
Oh, good. I noticed on Facebook a little while ago, about a week or so ago, that you put up your routine that you do on a daily basis. So just talk us through what you do.
Well, the first thing to mention is that I get a really good night's sleep. So, I literally would sleep through a nuclear war. My head usually hits the pillow around about 9 o'clock in the evening, and I don't wake up until my pet dog sits on my head and starts licking me and telling me it's time to go for a walk, which is around about 5:30 in the morning. So 5:30, I'm up. I make a cup of coffee, finish that off, and then it's a 2K walk with the dog.
Yeah.
I come back, and then it's on the bike, and I go off and do a 10K cycle ride. Then I come home, and then I do 45 minutes, what I call an awareness of the breath meditative yoga session. So I've kind of created it from past history to fit a particular thing that I needed to do. And then I do 15 minutes weight training. And that's it for the morning. And then in the evening, after the evening meal, I go off and do my 10,000 steps walk.
10,000 steps is about 5 kilometres, or is it long?
8.25. I think 8.25K.
8.25K. And you're in the coastal town of Mandurah in Western Australia, if you don't mind me saying that, for people that don't know Western Australia at all. So do you get some walks along the beach? Where do you walk?
My walk takes me from my house through the town, right down to the waterfront, down at main Mandurah, and it takes me along the complete waterfront up to the end, and then I do a circuit of a particular building that brings me out to build up the steps to the right amount, and then I walk the same route back again. So it's really picturesque once you get out of the main street. But I've also, when I was away recently, a couple of weeks ago, I was down south, and I just changed it and just walked along the beach and done the same length backwards and forwards. Walking is walking. Yeah.
We're lucky to have that beautiful south coast, aren't we?
Yeah, we are certainly, yeah.
So do you get the morning sun when you're walking at 5:30? Is the sun awake? Is it
No,
up?
no, it's light, but the sun hasn't come out yet. Usually, when I start my yoga, I'm doing that almost in full sunshine. So I try and find a bit of space, bit of shade somewhere in the garden area where I can do it. Yeah.
Right. And what about in regards to I see that you do a fair bit of intermittent fasting. So what's your nutrition like? And how has it changed? And how do you feel with the change?
I really took to intermittent fasting from day one. From the research that I've done, I started off really, really slow. Don't jump into this kind of thing and disrupt the body too much. So I started on a very gentle protocol, did that for a week, allowed the body to adapt, then changed it by upping it by just 1 hour, and again giving that a week. And that's the way I moved forward until I reached what I call my normal fasting routine, which is 19-5. So I fast for 19 hours and I have a 5-hour eating period with 2 periods of eating actually within that 5 hours, And that can be adapted and taken anywhere, in any situation. And it is the great thing about intermittent fasting is it's so adaptable to any lifestyle, any situation. So my work as a musician means that I'm working irregular hours sometimes, so I can't sit to that pattern, so I'll just adjust it accordingly. I do travel a lot as well, so I face all those temptations like cruise, all you can eat buffets, and
I see that you do a cruise. A lot of people I know, I've noticed posts in the carnivore groups and the groups about, I'm on a cruise and I don't know what to eat. What do you eat when you're on a cruise, Paul?
Well, I do the same as I do at home. So I carry on with the intermittent fasting. So, the breakfast buffet is of no interest to me whatsoever. So as soon as it comes to lunchtime, I generally go to the buffet and look for something, well, used to look for something that was basically just fats and proteins, because originally I went down the low carb diet routine. But having lost the weight, I've changed that significantly now to be more focused on nutrient-rich food. So I've added back in fruits and veg, and it hasn't made the slightest difference because I'm used to eating very small meals now. So the calorie level of my meals roughly maybe 600 per meal. So I'm still well under a deficit to continue losing weight if I choose.
Yes.
But I actually bulk up the calories by having a protein drink as well. So I don't really want to lose much more weight, but I keep that going as well. So yeah, you can, as long as some people would say it was discipline, but when you have a high fat protein diet, you're just not hungry. It fills you up. It keeps you full all day long. And that means you're eating smaller meals. You tend on a cruise to make it up of an evening with a few drinks. Yes. So, there's always a bit to make up. But yeah, I never found it an issue on the cruise at all. And it was a month's cruise. So, I come home and I think I put on less than a kilo in a month.
Yeah. And on the cruise, do you do the walks around the decks?
No, I will be doing it on the next cruise, but during my weight loss period, the research that I'd done suggested that from a weight loss perspective, not health perspective, it was best to put exercise on the back burner because of the differentiation between fat and muscle. So if you're trying to lose weight, scale weight, if you continue exercising, you're putting on muscle weight. So the scales will never drop down. So it was suggested that for the period where you're in weight loss, to stop exercising, massive exercise. I still took the dog for a walk, but that was about it. But now I've got my set routine pattern, which I try to increase a little bit each week, just to add in something next week. I'm going to be exploring a thing called chair yoga in the afternoon, just to give another aspect to it. And I'll continue that with the cruise I'm doing next month.
Ah, Beautiful. All right. So what have you had any health screening or anything within the medical profession?
Yeah, I've had recently. I had my blood. I generally go for an annual check because I very, very rarely see the doctor because by and large I'm a very healthy person and
Yeah.
have always have been. So I don't go to see my GP regularly, but because of family history, genetic history, linking cancer and things like that, I go once a year to do a complete scan of body check. So I have, the old poo check, I have the bloods check, and all of that kind of stuff, the heart check, and I specifically asked them this year when they did the bloods to pay particular attention to cholesterol because I wanted to understand um, the effect of a low carb, high fat protein diet on cholesterol, not just across the board, but particularly to the LDL small particle, which is the one that it could be risky. But unfortunately, they didn't do that test. They just did the normal test. And of course, the moment that I got in to get the results, it was like, do you want the good news or the bad news? I said, the good news. And the good news, like, for every health marker under the sun, you're A1 fighting fit. Yeah. And but well, your cholesterol is high. And I said, well, does that matter really? Because there seems to be so much conflicting information out there about cholesterol. And then we got into a chat about that, and I don't know, it's where you sit on that. It's kind of, there's something in it, but I think some of the things that we've been told over the years about cholesterol are not actually scientifically based these days. So the overall score and the HDL is not bad. According to the research data I've done, it's actually sometimes the HDL higher level, the more healthier you are. So it's only this small particle LDL that has any, if there is any link to cardiovascular illness and etc. etc. So I'm not worried about it overall because my personal experience is that I'm very, very healthy.
Because your brain needs that cholesterol.
Yeah, absolutely. That's you can't really have that conversation with someone who's schooled in a particular way and is closed to anything moving forward. It's hard. So we go our own kind of way on that level. But I'm open to being corrected because, this is my only, as far as I'm concerned, this is my only life. And I want to make the most of it. And I want it to be as long and healthy as I possibly can. So I'm not just going to be one of those rabbit hole people who say no, definitely. I want to look at it. So I'm going to get myself a CAC scan, the calcium scan. I want to know if there is any calcium build up there that I can adjust. But I have, as I said, changed the diet. So I'm now consciously aware of the possible link between saturated fats and low LDL. So I've adjusted the diet significantly to try and remove maybe 50% of the saturated fats because I was literally cooking everything in butter, eating as much living fat and goodness knows what as I can. So I've made an adjustment by cutting that down and replacing that with veg and fruit, which is still low carb sugar, but still full of nutrients, So I try the carnivore lifestyle approach that I'm promoting is really about trying to find a middle way between extremes. I consider carnivore and even keto to some extent to be an extreme and not sustainable long-term diet. And I also consider veganism and possibly vegetarian to be on the opposite end for whole wellness. Both of them have benefits and both of them have flaws, where if you can find the middle path that takes the best of each, but without the extreme mindsets that often develop with these things, then you're halfway there.
I feel like we all need to find what suits us for what we're
Yeah,
doing.
absolutely. It's my body, isn't it? It's going to, everything that happens in my body is going to be completely different to what's happening in your body. And the only way you can work this out is to test and experiment and use yourself. I went out and I bought, initially I bought the ketone urine strips, and they worked fairly well for a little while, but they measure the outgoing ketone, so it isn't effective. I bought a breath meter, ketone meter, which I found very effective to let me know what I was eating, the kind of effect. But ultimately, I moved to a blood ketone and glucose monitor. So I could actually look at anything that I chose to consume and test it, a very, very strict testing procedure. So I could actually see what difference this food made to my body.
Wonderful.
So I could actually work out, in terms of intermittent fasting, everyone goes, oh, this will break a fast, that will break a fast, this will spike insulin, that will spike insulin. And most of the times they're just parroting what they've read in a book or what else someone has said. They've never tested it on themselves. And when I tested things individually on myself, I said, no, that hasn't spiked glucose at all. So why would I give it up? Why would I make myself suffer and live a miserable life when I can have this and it doesn't affect the fast?
Yes, so sensible, and it's so simple when we know. But people get bogged down in what you should and what you shouldn't, and what this one said and what that one said, and they haven't taken the time to really practice on themselves, which is what they need to do.
And it seems to make people miserable and aggressive. And for me, I have to say, the entire journey since I committed to it has been brilliant. I've loved every minute of it. I've loved being my own test subject. I've loved the learning and the research and the effect it's had on my physical and mental health. So why do things to an extreme and get yourself all worked up about something stupid that you don't have to do? And there seems to be this hard line edge out there where you've got all these people that are going, and they drip off the words of some guru or other who says you can only do it this way, and there's no room for argument at all. I've been kicked out of so many forums. I have to say, it's amusing on one hand, but it's sad on the other. To see that people suffering, and because when you're in that mind state, it's not going to encourage you to actually adopt this as a lifestyle. And I think for me, that's probably the most important message, is that if you approach this with a diet mentality, I'm on a diet, right? And there's a finite start and there's a finite end. My view is you're going to fail. Long term, you're going to be back exactly where you started, because that's what the evidential data is pointing to. But when you adapt this as an ongoing lifestyle change that is so easy to adapt without the guilt and the shame, oh my God, I had a donut today, I'm going to burn in hell kind of thing.
Process, isn't it? It's a process of changing that mindset that takes time and understanding.
And then you start to enjoy the journey. I love cooking. I love creating new dishes and sharing them with people. Show people that you don't have to sit there and eat a bowl of lettuce every day. You can eat exotic foods, and you can eat takeaways. You can almost eat anything as long as you monitor it and know what it's doing to your body. There's no reason why on earth anyone should suffer doing this.
And I've noticed on Facebook you've been putting a few little shows about what you cook and kitchen setup and your pans. What's your favourite? What's the favourite food that you like to cook?
Oh, it's a difficult one. Stir fries is my kind of forte. Because they're really rich in flavour, but they're so low in calories as well. So they're very filling, but the actual cost of them to your regime, for want of a better word, is very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's always. I'll try and throw in a couple of stir fries a week. Eggs is a regular appearance in one form or other. Like today, I think I had scrambled blue cream cheese eggs.
Wonderful.
Absolutely lovely. Yeah.
You can eat some meals if you like. That sounds lovely. So what do you think is the most health benefit you've seen along the journey? The most obvious one.
Yeah, I think mental health has been the most. The level of clarity and contentment, I think, has been the greatest movement. Although, to be fair, my mental health prior to this was pretty okay, and not a major problem. But the concentration, the awareness, the alertness is very, very alive. But also the actually amount of energy you get when you do this, the physical energy, you know, it's almost like I should take the pill to knock me off to sleep, but I sleep sound and I'm not tired. I'm not like exhausted from the exercise. That's another transformation, really. This has led to that.
And
But
the
yeah,
exercise seems like you've fitted it into a fairly calm kind of routine. Like you've got your things that you do and you fit this in and you calmly go through your morning and get your things done.
well, calmness is a kind of key feature of my life. So, you know, I've been a meditation and Buddhist teacher for nearly 35, 40 years, I think. So I teach meditation every week at a local group down here. I run meditation retreats. So meditation and yoga and that calm, serene way of life has been a key feature. And it's, you know, it's tied in with Buddhism, because the whole carnivore lifestyle is a middle way approach. It's really taking the teachings of the Buddha and applying them in a different context. Try and find the middle way, the contented way between the two extremes. So it's implementing all of the things that I've done and learned over the years and just apply that to a specific and new context.
So if you were a fellow, you know, approaching their 50s, if you're a young guy that's approaching their 50s and you've got a bit of belly that you want to get rid of, and you know you want to look after your health a bit more, what would you say to them? How would you encourage them? What would be the first steps?
The first thing is to accept psychologically that you're never too old to start, and every day of investment you put into the lifestyle, you're going to get paid out at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I started at 68 and I'm now 70. I'm already on a bonus. So
Yes.
however old you are, but if you're going to do this, start off with the right mindset and not one that's going to hold you back. So I'm convinced from talking to so many different people, when they go down this diet road, of it's almost like a punishment and reward system, and it leads to unhealthy cravings that then you try and hide because you've had a bite of chocolate and all that guilt and all that kind of. You don't need to do any of that if you can just understand the very basic principle of carnivore is cause and effect. And that relates to the human experience. Every action that you do has a consequence. And if you take responsibility from that without blaming anybody else, that gives you the freedom to do this without all of the angst attached to it. So you've got to be honest with yourself to start with. You can't eat half the fridge of a night time and deny it that you did it. There's absolutely no point in that. But you can recognize why you did it and learn from the experience without beating yourself up, so that you don't repeat the same mistakes. There's lots of things you can do, but whether you're willing to or not, I don't know. That's the thing. I think if men understood how beneficial this is for their mental health first, you know, this is really a thing that can help if you're suffering from any kind of depression, stress, anxiety disorders and all that kind of thing. There is a whole wealth of data out there supporting that whole awareness approach to life, you know. So that's something I obviously would encourage people to do, is to go out and look at ways that they can start to develop awareness, maybe through awareness meditation practice, maybe through yoga, maybe through all of those kind of meditative qualities. But try and, if you can, move. Hope no one's going to get offended by me saying this, but try and avoid the kind of things that people call meditation, like twinkly music in the background and walking you down the garden path and all that kind of audio suggestive stuff. That's not. It's great for relaxation, but it's not going to actually teach the brain to be clarified and concentrated and relieve some of the things that that depression, stress, and anxiety cause. Okay, so meditation is work. It's a way to work with your own body again to develop it.
Do you think there's a start point for meditation, though? Do you think maybe walking in nature and noticing your surroundings?
It's a great start. I don't call that meditation. I call that meditative walking, because meditation in its purest sense means adding nothing else into your experience. It's just being prepared to sit there and notice the change of physical, emotional, psychological movement without giving it a story or judging it as good or bad. So meditation practice is about sitting with willingness and acceptance of the experience. So then you start going into walking meditation, where you start adding in walking and awareness of beauty and nature and sounds and all of those things. And that gives another layer of meditation. And yoga is the same. When you're in a pose, you're adding something into the meditative experience, but there's genuine health benefits from the poses themselves, as it sends energy in different directions all around the body and toning up the body, the muscles and things like that. So all of these things are great for a meditative aspect, but ultimately, from my perspective, and obviously I'm biased because I'm an awareness meditation teacher, it's the actual formal sitting practice is where you can start developing a deeper level of insight into yourself and the world around you. And that's the thing that most of the studies around meditation that have been done and mental health and awareness and all that kind of thing have always been focused on the formal sitting meditation practices, because those things can be measured scientifically. They can wire you up to all manner of contractions and they can note what's actually happening in the body. So the other type of things that we were talking about, you know, the music and all those, you can't really assess those scientifically. So they do fit into the umbrella of maybe relaxing people, and that's a good thing. You know, everyone wants to be a bit more cool and chilled and relaxed, but the benefits that I'm talking are a kind of a different degree, really. Yeah.
And what about if someone was not really a meditative person or not really into meditation, and it's some fellows I know would find it difficult to begin a practice? Do you think that the walking in nature is a good place to start? Or
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd even suggest, look, just go down the beach and sit on the beach and look out at the sea. Just focus on the waves coming in and out, and you're more or less doing an awareness practice. It doesn't have to be seated in a dark room, you know, in silence. You can adapt the formula, if you like, or the structure of meditation practice, and you can do it literally anywhere. And again, much similar to intermittent fasting, once you know the structure and how to meditate, you can apply this in any situation and take it with you anywhere. So, for instance, the awareness of breath meditation, which uses counting breaths as its anchor point, in the workplace, in the home place, or out there in the thing, when you hit a moment of stress or anxiety, you just click into breath awareness mode and count a few breaths, and it just subsides quite naturally, and you're back to being calm again. If you can keep repeating that, the body remembers, the mind remembers that activity. So you become less and less stressed over a period of time, you know.
And what about in regards to nutrient intake? If someone was starting, if they had a bit of body weight they wanted to offload for health benefits, what sort of starting point would you suggest for them?
I can only talk from my own experience. Obviously, when I started off, low carb, keto low carb was of interest to me, only because I found that every time I do a calorie controlled diet, all the while I ate sugar carb food, it never filled me up, and I was always hungry, and therefore I was tempted more to eat more and go over. And yeah, you did lose weight because you're starving yourself of a bowl of salad, but you was hungry, you were suffering all day long. So when I read and understood about the low carb, I switched, and then I found almost immediately I was never hungry. You actually literally on occasion say, right, I must eat something today, you know. Uh, so during my weight loss period, that was really, really helpful. I
How long
wasn't
was
fanatical.
that time for?
Well, 8 months
Oh,
was,
8 months.
yeah, 8 months, yeah, until I reached my goal weight. And then I just went on to a maintenance plan. So once I'd reached my target by doing fairly strictly low carb, no sugar, no kind of, well, a few ultra processed foods, but not many. Once I'd reached my goal, then you're on a maintenance plan where you can start changing things and adapting. So you start kind of starting to allow in certain vegetables, certain fruits, still low sugar fruits like berries.
It becomes more of a lifestyle, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. You adapt it. Yeah. So I mean, tonight I'm having rice. Oh my God, I'll be thrown out of a keto group for saying that. But I've learned that if you cook rice and you freeze rice and then reuse it again, you cut the starch down by 50%, and that's your glucose and insulin. That's an immediate savings. So you can start reintroducing a reasonable sized portion of rice with your meal. You don't have to go without all of these things. And same with breads, you know, you can adapt different breads to suit your taste, you know. So again, the message is you don't have to suffer for success. You really don't.
If you were to look over the time that you've been living or changed your lifestyle or embracing a new way of being, who would be someone that you drew the most information from? Is there a standout person or a book or a podcast?
Yeah, initially, it was Dr. Jason Fung, I think his name is.
Yeah, that's Jason. Yep.
Was my starting point with his book, The Obesity Code.
Yeah.
But I will say, I found incredibly helpful in the early stages of my journey, but then I found over time that there was things in his book that didn't actually have the backing of science. It was more of his own personal commercial narrative that didn't actually match the scientific data that I've actually uncovered by looking and going somewhere else. And the same, I found in particular, there's an American female writer, who everyone quotes, I forget her name, she's gone off my head now, but so much of her book was personal opinion or a misunderstanding of data. So she was a prime example of making it difficult for people by sticking all of these rules and regulations in and declaring this breaks a fast and that don't break a fast.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe she did help loads and loads of people, and that's a great thing. But I'm more concerned in making sure that the data is accurate and that nobody has to suffer doing this. So currently, my go-to guy is a guy called Dr. Idz, I-D-Z.
IDZ.
IDZ, Dr. Idz, and he's a medical person. He's not just a chiropractitioner or a physiotherapist. He's actually a practicing doctor. And he's also, he has a master's degree in additional nutrition, and he's a fanatic, I have to say, about research data. And he unpacks it to the nth degree. And his basically role in life is he goes around challenging all these social media influencer gurus who just scare people to death with all of this stuff. And he just shows them the data. He doesn't just talk about it. He says, look, here's like 56 controlled studies on human beings, not rats. And this is what the study actually says, you know?
Important. Yeah.
So he's very, very accurate. And so I kind of test everything by him when I want to find out whether information is good or not helpful, you know.
Good, good. And what's your next adventure? You've got another cruise coming, did you say, or a holiday?
Yeah, Japan next month, and then I'm off to the UK for a month, and then I'm off to Lisbon and Cape Town. I told you I'll get around a bit.
I follow you. I see you putting your little posts out on the social media, and I think, oh, you're over there. Oh,
yeah. I did a 5-month tour of Australia last year, so that was interesting. Yeah.
And you managed to stick to the routine.
Yeah, and bear in mind I was performing like 5 nights out of 7, so the hours of routine was a bit hectic at times. So again, and you're on the road, so you've got limited cooking facilities.
Yes. So
you just adapt.
turkeys, or what did you do if you were? What did you eat on the road?
I just kept to my normal food. Occasionally, when you had no options, like
Yes.
if you're thousands of k's between A and B,
Yep.
you've got to stop at a roadhouse and fill up, and all you've got available to is pies and chips or greasy food. You go for it because you've got to eat, but then you adapt to the other end. You can say, right, I've had this today for lunch. Now I'm going to match it with something a bit more sensible later on. So again, you don't have to avoid all of these things. You just got to be aware of what they do, what they count in terms of calorific value on your body and whatnot, and then make an adjustment accordingly. And that's the way forward for me. I'm
Beautiful.
not going to deny myself anything. I'll just make use of it and make sense of it. So I don't have to go into that whole denial thing. I think one of the things that I found, I forget, I'll remember her name in a minute, but her catchphrase was delay, don't deny. And you talk to people online and they seem to get the impression that what she was saying is you can eat anything you like during your window.
I don't think.
And people were going, well, I'm not losing any weight. And so, well, you've misunderstood what's being said. Yeah, you've got an 8-hour window, but that doesn't mean you can go down the curry house at 1 o'clock and the Chinese at 2 o'clock and have a kebab at 3 o'clock. You can't eat what you want during your window. It's got to fit in with that calorific balance. Yeah, we don't have to go mad about counting calories, certainly if you're eating fat protein foods. But without that calorific difference, you're never going to lose weight. You can't get round the thermodynamics of it all. So to some degree, yeah, you do have to watch what you eat, but don't deny yourself because you'll just go around that cycle of guilt and rubbish. You just adapt those things.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to
All
talk.
right.
I really appreciate your wisdom and your life story and all the things that you've found that have simplified the journey for you and can do for so many others as well. So I think for me, the take home would be to calmly look after your life and begin to change things to suit how it feels on your body.
Yeah, yeah. You should be your own judge and jury. It's great. Your own scientist and your own subject. That's the best way I can say.
Want to find you on Facebook, where would they, or where do you people want to follow what you do, or if there's men out there?
There's a Facebook group called Carnivore Lifestyle, which is where I post
great.
every day. And then there's obviously a YouTube, Carnivore, and there's a TikTok, and there's a Instagram. So all of them are linked, and I post the same content on all as I go.
Link so I can put it in the show notes and people can find you.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to inject some humor into them, so I don't take this like mega seriously. I make a joke of the fact that all my videos are shoddy and badly edited, because I want to keep it real, and I'm not interested in the money making thingy of influence and all that kind of thing. So I want just to share, hopefully, for people that will find it helpful to do something about their own journeys without all of that other stuff getting in the way.
And carnivore is spelled with a K.
Yeah, karma.
Boy.
Vor, I just explained, vor means to eat. Vor means to eat, and karma means just cause and effect. So you eat in accordance with cause and effect. If you eat this, the effect will be that.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul.
No worries. I'll send you those links.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.